Pues estoy aquí con un queridísimo amigo y un músico increíble, que creo que nunca lo había entrevistado formalmente. Estoy aquí con ERIK DEUTSCH. How are you?
Hola, Sara. Hola, Sara.
Hola, ERIK.
¿Todo bien?
You know, I was thinking that I think I never did an interview, like a formal interview with you, or yes.
Which seems crazy porque, I mean, hace 10 años,
Yeah, I know.
we've been doing things. I've been on the radio. No, I've been on your radio
Yeah.
show. Probably you asked me some stuff, but
Yeah,
not like
exactly.
not a straight interview.
Exactly.
In between songs on Solo Jazz. Probably.
Yeah. So now we're going to start from the beginning. And
my God.
first of all, I want to ask you, how's that you became a musician? How was the environment in your family? Do you have musicians in your family, or why you decided to be a musician?
Well, my dad was a little bit of a musician, and we had a piano in the house and guitar. But the real musician is mi abuelo, el padre de mi padre.
Okay.
So my grandfather in Washington, D.C. was a musician. He was a professional musician. He was the president of the Musicians Union in Washington, D.C. for 35 years. So he was involved with the business and the performance. He played the fiddle and he sang. Interesting side note, he was also a lawyer and the mayor of Friendship Heights in Maryland. So
Okay.
he was of the generation of the European immigrants,
Mhm.
incredibly busy, productive, active, hardworking. And it was always believed in my family that you could be a musician, but you had to have another career too. So that's
So
how that
you were surrounded of music.
Not surrounded, but it was there.
Okay.
At my grandfather's
It was
house.
present there.
Yeah, it was there.
Okay. And then you moved to Colorado. I believe that you studied there.
I went to college there.
You went to
University.
But what about music? You
Yeah, I studied music there.
okay.
And that was the beginning of my
Professional.
well, in high school in Washington, D.C., I was doing music and I was doing gigs already since I was 14. So
14.
it wasn't the beginning. But when I went to Colorado, that was the beginning of my decision to only be a musician. That makes
Because
sense.
did you think about a B plan or something?
Like I said, in my
a
family,
lawyer?
you
Yeah.
had to have another job and the music.
Yeah.
When I went to Colorado,
You say only
the
music.
day I got there, changed my mind.
Yeah.
I'm only music.
And what about the environment in Colorado? Because I believe that there's like a very strong music scene.
Yeah, it was strong. And then in 1995, it was strong in Boulder and not as strong in Denver.
Oh,
Now it's the opposite. Denver's very, very strong. Boulder's not so much.
okay.
But Boulder, where I live, where I went to college, was a very cool, hippie, alternative kind of music scene.
Like you. So that's where you started to
This is it.
develop your own projects?
Yeah, already in high school before
In
that.
high school.
But in Colorado, I started a band the first month of the school called Fat Mama. And Fat Mama
That was your first band?
Yeah, the first
Well,
the first band that had
Yeah,
an album,
exactly.
you know, the first real band. I had bands I had Evolution when I was in 8th grade. So when I was
really?
13, yeah.
Okay.
And we had lots of gigs, 14, I guess. And yeah, there was other bands, but Fat Mama was the one that kind of started the career.
And you record an album with Fat Mama,
We
right?
made 4 albums.
4 albums, okay. So tell me something. I know that Arlandi is like your mentor. So you met Arlandi in Colorado?
Yeah, Arlandi lived and still lives in Boulder, Colorado. He was teaching privately there, and he was a guest with the jazz band in the college on a concert. So we played together, I think around October of my freshman year in college. That's when we became friends.
Wow. And you made a band, Triangle, with Arlandi?
See?
Yeah. I remember
Triangle,
that.
yeah, that started in 2000, I think. 99 or 2000, with Doug Anderson on bass.
And why did you decide to move to New York?
Well, you know, every jazz musician wants to move to New York. And it was always a plan. I just stayed in Colorado a little longer. I stayed 9 years, I think. So when Fat Mama broke up in 2001, most of the guys moved to New York. I went back to Boulder, finished college, hung out for another year, and then moved to New York.
And how was to get into that scene in New York? Because there's a lot of amazing musicians and a lot of bands.
I have to say that I had an easy transition because I already had so many friends there.
Yeah.
Also, I moved there when I was 29. I was very confident.
Yeah.
It was different than being a 23-year-old. No?
Yeah, exactly.
Or no, maybe I was 28 when I moved there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was confident in what I did. I had so much experience in Colorado, playing, teaching, making albums, making bands. Because after Fat Mama, I made County Road X and Triangle. So I had different bands in Colorado making records with all these bands, and I felt confident. Plus, I was playing in Ron Miles' band, playing with Devotchka, playing,
Vodka, yeah.
Yeah, I had done things already. So when I went to New York, I felt that it was a pretty good, smooth transition.
What I find really interesting about you is that you are a very eclectic musician, because you have played with so many musicians in different genres. Like, I know that you love folk, country, jazz, but also you have played electronic, rock. I mean, you're already playing rock and roll now.
Yeah. Well, I grew up with rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm lucky because fortunate that I actually care about all these genres. I grew up listening to rock and roll. My dad liked blues, classical music. I studied when I was a kid.
Okay.
Reggae music was part of my life in high school. Country music was part of my life. We lived in Nashville for a minute when I was a kid. My mom was from there. So really, jazz is the only music that wasn't part of my childhood. Yeah. All the others were. And electronic music, just once you get into synthesizers and keyboards, it's a natural thing to connect to.
Yeah, but it's good. There's so many jazz players that they don't like to play other genres. They think that it's not, I don't know, they are purists or...
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are, but it's not that realistic in this modern world to just play one kind of jazz for a career. It's almost impossible. So those kind of people are fewer and fewer, I think. You know what I mean? Maybe the guys from the 90s who had the jazz gigs that are purists, the bebop guys, the Young Lions or whatever. But in the end, to work in this modern world of music, it's a lot easier if you're more flexible, no?
Actually, today, you don't really know what is jazz or not, because
it's really wide open now.
Exactly. So tell me about your collaborations. I mean, we can name more than 100, but tell me which one of them are the most important or meaningful for you.
Well, the connection with Art Landy, my teacher and bandmate and mentor, good friend. My connection with Ron Miles. I would point those as my two most important connections in my Colorado era. And then in New York, I would say my connection with Charlie Hunter.
Yeah. I think that's the first time that I knew about you.
Oh.
With Charlie Hunter.
It was important.
Because you went to Mexico, right?
Mm-hmm.
To play there.
My connection with Theo Blackman.
Yeah.
My connection with Leftover Salmon. It really comes most of the bands that I've been in. Shooter Jennings.
Yeah.
The bands that I've been in with people that I really connect with, those are my closest, biggest influences.
Tell me about, you have 7 albums?
9, coming up 9.
Coming up, 9?
Número 9.
The new one will be released in July?
Yeah.
Okay.
18 de julio.
18 de julio. So, tell me about the evolution of your music, or the evolution of you as a composer, or the pianist, from the first album to the last one.
I don't know. I think that I actually liked the first album, but it's very heady. So it's kind of more cerebral in a way. I think my music became funkier maybe over time, groovier.
Yeah.
From that album. And part of that is the influence of people like Charlie Hunter. Yeah. But I don't know. I think I like song on album 1 and some songs on the second one that aren't as, hopefully you just keep developing. I think the production has gotten more interesting in my albums. I'm proud of the production on the new album. I think it's kind of got a thing. And more and more layers of keyboards.
70 channels of keyboards.
Yeah, why not? But yeah, I don't know. I think each album is its own statement, and they hopefully continue to be relevant and progressive.
So, what do you think when you listen to your old recordings? Do you recognize yourself, or it's just
No, I do. Yeah, because I know the music on those records very much.
and it's part of. I mean, it's like a picture of a specific moment.
Totally. And I remember the details about all these moments, you know?
Okay.
So even the first Fat Mama record from 1997, I remember how I felt when I made a solo on a certain song or something. So I have a good memory for that stuff, maybe.
Tell me about this collaboration that you're doing actually with a very legendary band, the Black Crowes. How is that you get to play with them?
Just through mutual friends in New York City. The Black Crowes were broken up for 12 years, I think. Got back together, had auditions, called me. I auditioned, it was cool. They hired somebody else, but it didn't work out. So then they called me and asked me if I would do it.
That's great.
Yeah, it's an honor. I love
You've
it.
been
I was
there
a huge
since-
fan as a kid. So it's an
Yeah.
honor. Yeah, huge.
And also they have like a resurgimiento, like a new, how do you say, resurgimiento? I don't know the word.
What is the word?
Resurgimiento, like a revival.
A what?
Revival.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, no?
yeah,
Because
sure.
They didn't record.
Yeah, well, because they broke up for so long, you know.
Yeah, and now with this album, they were nominated to the Grammy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's amazing to be a part of it.
yeah, I guess. Yeah,
I'm-
you've been
I-
traveling all through the
It's an
world.
honor and it's fun and the music's fantastic and I'm enjoying the ride. And we're gonna make another album next month.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
And now I want to talk about your experience on the radio, because this is a funny story. I remember that when I first met you in New York, you called me and said, "Hey, come on to my place. Let's listen to some music." And we were talking about the radio on my show. And I remember that you say, "I would like to do something on the radio." And then you started with a segment, 15 minutes, and then it turned in 30, and then 45, and I say, "Come on, do the whole show one day." And that's 9 years ago.
I remember you asking me if I would do a segment.
I did.
I think so. And I
I
thought, I don't know, it seems too much work. And then I realized I should just do this. And that's what I always say. Thank you so much, because it's one of the great pleasures of my life musically to have the opportunity to bring the music to you guys. I mean that.
And what I like is that no matter where you are, you always end the show, and sometimes we can listen to the environment. Like
Remember the space
birds,
episode when I was in the stairwell?
Yes. Yeah,
Stairwell of a hotel?
Yeah. So what's next? I mean, you telling me that you're going to record a new album with the Black Crowes, but you also have been touring with your own projects. You went to Brazil, you went to Argentina.
Yeah, there's a new Black Crowes album in May. We're going to make in Nashville. I released my next record in July. And then
This was then, that's the name?
This Was Then.
All right.
And then the new project I have, Hate Love Trio in Mexico City. We're going to release an album in the fall, I think hopefully October.
Wow.
So lots of action.
So I have another question. I mean,
Tell me.
how is that you
Dime.
decided to move to Mexico?
Mexico. Well, starting with Charlie Hunter, when I first visited, 2007,
Okay.
mi primera vez en Ciudad de México, diciembre de 2007 con Charlie Hunter. I had an amazing weekend, we had amazing gigs, and I kind of fell in love. So I connected with a friend, Blas Caballero. Blas helped me to return. Blas eventually introduced us, or recommended that we connect. Yeah, so
Well, I think it was Jay.
exactly. But Blas had something he had mentioned it. So over the years, Blas helped me to come back to perform with my band, which was successful and exciting. And then in 2013, más o menos, we met in New York City on like a cold night, and I made you soup.
Potato soup or something like that. That was really weird because I was expecting maybe a drink and he offered me a soup. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, it was, Tony Mason was there too.
Oh, he was?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
he was there.
So I made you a soup, and then you asked me to do the radio show, Start the Sounds of Brooklyn and Beyond. 10 years later,
Still doing
been
it.
doing that, visited Guadalajara a million times, made many connections to Mexico, and finally, after 10 years of when I first met Blas, when I first visited Ciudad de Mexico, Blas asked if I wanted to take his apartment in the city, so we took it.
That's a great story. And you're happy in Mexico.
Muy feliz.
And we're almost finished, but I want to ask about the Mexican scene because now you are part of that. So how do you see the music scene in Mexico City?
I think it's great. I think it has lots of positives. I think that I'm learning more and more about Mexican pop music and rock music all the time. There's a lot to know. And when I first came, I didn't realize how much good music was out there, or just I didn't realize what was out there. So I'm learning more and more all the time. I think Mexico City has a thriving jazz scene in that there are multiple clubs, Casa Franca, Jazzatlan, Zinco Jazz, that are always full, always with people. And that's beautiful, you know? So we get to play there to excited audiences almost any night of the week. That's a special thing.
That's great.
I think that the DJs are amazing. A lot of good DJs, a lot of good clubs for dancing and for listening to good electronic music. And of course, there's special pop music going on, especially the kind of modern translations of folkloric music, Natalia Lafourcade, right? Silvana Estrada, Adán Jodorowsky, you know, in his production and music. These are just a few people that are making special things. The cumbia scene is very good. A lot of good cumbia music and live bands and DJs.
Do you think that kind of music has influenced your new stuff?
Trying to bring that in, and especially with the Hate Love Trio. Less with my music. My ERIK Deutsche jazz music just can kind of continues on its psychedelic cinematic path, I think. But the new project,
it's cool. So, what would you say to a young musician who's starting to play? What would you say? What would be your what would you say? I mean, a suggestion or
to a young musician starting to play music? I say, like, more than ever, there's more ways to make music. There's more opportunities. There's more outlets. You know, of course, learn technology, but every young person understands the computer. You don't have to tell them that.
Yeah.
But the technology is right there to make amazing music at home, in your bedroom. Do it. And I also think that it's important to remember the human connection. So to not only, it's okay to only focus on the computer, but at some point you might want to be connected with other people, because making music with other humans is a beautiful thing and part of the magic of the career. Yeah?
Okay, well, I think that's it.
Oh, yeah?
So thank you.
Gracias, Sara.
And I know that Tapatíos love you because you have a special connection with the people in Guadalajara. No?
That's beautiful. Well, I hope so. And I love that.
Do you want to say something to your Tapatíos
Adiós,
fans?
Tapatíos. Gracias por escucharme en Solo Jazz por hace 10 años. Es un placer de mi vida a presentar la música a ustedes.
Muy bien.
Okay.
Gracias, Eric.
Okay, gracias, Sara.